Welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast, where we interview remarkable people and share strategies for mastering money and living a meaningful life. With your host, Grant Sabatier, creator of Millennial Money and author of Financial Freedom, a proven path to all the money you will ever need.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the show. I know it's been about a year since my last episode, so thank you for tuning in. This episode is about my new book, Inner Entrepreneur, A Proven Path to Profit and Peace. This is my second book through the Avery imprint at Penguin Random House, and I'm so excited to share it with the world. In this episode, I'm going to go into the background on why I wrote the book, as well as distill some of the key lessons and what you can expect to get from reading it. So thank you for tuning in. My first book, Financial Freedom, A Proven Path to All the Money You Will Ever Need, came out in February of 2019, about a year before the pandemic. And since that time, the book has spread around the world and been translated in over 20 languages and completely transformed my life. I want to thank you for supporting my work and giving me this opportunity to write books and do what I love. But to be honest, I didn't know if I'd write another book after the success of Financial Freedom for a few reasons. The first, it just takes so much time to write a book. This one took me over 2,500 hours to write. I had a kid in the middle of it. It was stressful. It takes so much energy. There's a massive time trade-off to writing a book. The second reason is that media consumption patterns just continue to change, and people aren't reading as many business books or personal finance books as they have in the past. They're watching TikTok videos, watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts. And so books as a way to share information, especially this type of prescriptive how-to information, are just becoming less and less popular. And so there are far more popular ways, especially as people's attention spans continue to get shorter, to share content like the content that I write about. And the third reason is simply because I didn't have to. In October of 2020, I sold my website, Millennial Money, to the Motley Fool for a life-changing amount of money, and really thought that I was done with being Grant at Millennial Money, being Grant the personal finance creator, being Grant the creator or content creator at all. And to be honest, I found that relieving. I was excited about doing something different. I was very happy to close this content creation chapter of my life. And it's not that I don't still have a ton to say, it's just that it takes an immense amount of time to create content, especially when you're not building a business behind it. And as I'm recording this today, I do have a website holding company, MMG Media, and own a number of websites. I have a brick and mortar bookstore, Clintonville Books, and I continue to actively invest in private companies and then passively invest in index funds. But books are very difficult to write when you don't have a larger, let me say, business goal in mind, because they do take so much effort. But when I was writing Financial Freedom, I was building my website, I was building my personal brand, and really at the age of 40 now, while there's so many different content creators creating content at all ages, I feel like I'd burned out. I started first creating content in 2015. I've been doing it for over 10 years and really feel like I've gotten everything that I can in my own life and contributed as much as I can, through everything that I've written, through all the podcast episodes, through all the interviews that I've done. But with that being said, I decided to write Inner Entrepreneur because I continue to get reader emails and questions from all over the world, primarily about entrepreneurship and how can I start a side business? What are some of the best opportunities today? How can I build my company? How can I use entrepreneurship to accelerate my journey to financial independence? Grant, how do you invest in companies? I continue to get questions like this, and I really thought hard about whether or not I wanted to write this book. But after doing some deep soul searching and continuing to reflect on my own life, I realized that the best way that I could continue to give to others was through another book, and focus that book on entrepreneurship specifically through the lens of how do you build a business that helps you expand your life. entrepreneurship has given me so much. Not only has it generated a vast majority of the money that I was able to invest and use to accelerate my journey to financial independence, but it's also opened up an incredible number of opportunities for me to travel around the world, for me to meet new and interesting people, for me to connect with others, for me to give back. And it's expanded my life in the sense that it's helped me grow. It's helped me have an impact. It's helped me have a mission that's bigger than myself. And so in the book, I dive deep into everything that I've learned over the past 15 years as an entrepreneur that I feel has most moved the needle in my businesses and in my life. And this is an important point because most business books really focus on one particular idea: how to be a good manager, how to be a good leader, how to hire, how to scale your company, how to be better at marketing, how to create lead funnels, how to create offers, how to buy businesses, how to sell businesses. But I've never read a book that shows the expansive view of entrepreneurship, meaning how do you determine what type of entrepreneur you want to be, what it means to you, and how can you use this incredible entrepreneur life path to build a life that you actually love. And so we live in a moment now where it's never been easier in history to make money on your own terms, but the trade-offs required to do it often leave people feeling burnt out, lost, like they're soulless, like they're still trading their time for money. And I know quite a few entrepreneurs who've built large, very successful businesses, but they're still unhappy, they're stressed out, and they've built businesses that really just are another job. Or I also know a lot of consultants who, because of AI, are finding it more difficult to get clients, or that it's more competitive in their industry. And we're just at a fascinating time in history where even jobs that were seemingly thought to be as very, very secure at the large tech companies, now those tech companies, the Metas, the Amazons, are reducing headcount, are laying people off, are focused on maximizing profit for shareholders, which of course makes sense, but they're looking to reduce their expenses. They're eliminating entire levels of management and oversight and really leaning into AI as ways to do more with fewer people. And so I've just seen so many people, and even had friends who've been laid off from these companies, who are now just searching for jobs. And the job market is very difficult, and I believe that it'll continue to get more and more difficult. And so Inner Entrepreneur, it's many things. There's so much in the book, but really it's a call to action for anyone who's curious about entrepreneurship, and even those who are already entrepreneurs, really to use entrepreneurship, whether it's through starting a side business, testing a side business, launching a small solopreneur venture, launching a small company, just using entrepreneurship to make more money, to give yourself more freedom, to give yourself more options, and not be beholden to a company or a full-time job that could ultimately not be here even next week. And so one of the beautiful things about being an entrepreneur is you can choose what it means to you, and you can build a business that you love that helps you make more money, expand your life, really all on your own terms. It's not about growth at all cost. It's not about being the biggest. It's not about being the most successful. It's about doing the upfront work of figuring out what type of business you want to launch, what type of business you can launch, and then what limits you're willing to set in your life in order to build that business. One of the big takeaways from the book is that the paradox of freedom is that it really only exists within limits. I thought that freedom was some unlimited thing, and being able to do everything that I wanted and have money to do everything that I wanted would really make me happy. But after reaching financial independence and over the subsequent years, I learned that really building a life you love is just about doing the things that you love, and everything else is noise. And so if you don't do the work to figure out what you love and try new things to figure out what you love, just like building a business, if you don't think about the things that you don't want to do in addition to the things that you do, you'll very easily end up with a business that stresses you out or doesn't add value to your life, even if you're making additional money. So there's many takeaways in the book like that, but a big focus is on how can you test being an entrepreneur, or if you're already an entrepreneur, how can you recalibrate if you need to build a business that ultimately serves you and helps you make money on your own terms, and then also helps you accelerate your journey to financial independence. And so in the book, I dive deep into the personal finance side of entrepreneurship, and I talk about the trade-offs of trading your time for money, even as a consultant or building a solopreneur business, and some of the challenges there. And so the book really does go from how to come up with an idea, and then how to experiment and test that idea, and then how to grow at your own pace. And the book is really built around 4 levels of entrepreneurship. And the first level is experimental entrepreneur. And at this level, you're testing out a lot of ideas. You're testing out how different business ideas make you feel. You're leaning into your passion and your skills, and you're thinking through a mission for your business. And you're really just testing the waters. And entrepreneurship will always be about experimenting. Even the most successful entrepreneurs in the world continue to experiment. But at the experimental entrepreneur phase, you're really testing out new ideas and figuring out what type of entrepreneur you want to be, in addition to finding a good idea that can help you make money and also expand your life. Because I do see people, especially newer entrepreneurs, who launch a business, they're doing it just for the cash, and that's fine. I talk about the trade-offs of doing that, but thinking through where this business can actually go and where you want it to go and how you want it to power your life, and then reverse engineering that business ends up being a much more successful strategy than just diving into the thing that you can make money doing today without thinking through where this can go. So I talk a lot about how to build a company to sell, how to evaluate a business idea, to think through whether you could sell it, and think about what your exit plan is really up front and where you want this business to go, and then have that be one of the filtering criteria for evaluating new ideas. So I haven't seen another book that does this, and I really think it's important to think through where you want your business to be. Whenever I launch a new company, I fast forward to 5 years. What does success look like in 5 years? Do I want to sell this business? Do I want it to focus on my cash on cash return and think about this just as a cash investment? How much time am I going to be trading for this business, over the next 5 years? What are the opportunity costs, of that time? Would the money just be better invested, in the stock market? I talk a lot in the book about how to figure out the best use of a dollar as you're starting a business, as you're building it, as you're reinvesting back into your company, how to think through the best way to use the money that you're making in both your life and in your business. That's one of the big key themes, of the book. And then at the second level, that's the solopreneur level. This is when you've hired some contractors. Solopreneurship is really all about building sustainability into your business. And so I talk about how to build sustainable cash flow, how to build sustainable revenue streams, how to build sustainable systems that are predictable, that ultimately allow you to stop trading so much of your time for money. In the solopreneur section, I dive deep into whether you should be a consultant, when you should scale up your consulting business or give up your consulting business. In that section, I dive deep into productized services. So how do you create services where you're trading your time for money, and then create a blueprint so you can train other people to offer those services so that you can broker other people's time instead of just selling your own. So the solopreneur section is really quite deep and focuses on, how to build a business that you love, that ultimately is generating enough sustainable cash so you can use that cash for your life, and then decide whether or not you want to grow and how to grow. And then that builds into phase 3, which is the growth entrepreneur section, which is really about growing your company in a way that you want to grow, and not about unbridled growth or unsustainable growth or just growth for growth's sake. Oftentimes, it's very difficult to slow down a successful business, and it's really kind of antithetical to entrepreneurship. And you often have to be growing or adapting in some way, no matter what, just because the world is changing so rapidly. And if you don't adapt, your business will start to die or start to wither, or you won't be able to take advantage of really the opportunity that exists within a company. So what does it mean to be a growth entrepreneur? And what does it mean at this stage to use entrepreneurship to also grow as a person? Because if you have a successful business and you start to grow, the choices that you make at this phase are very essential because they can open up new doors and new opportunities for you, or they can shut doors and constrict the opportunities for you. And so I talk about the trade-offs within this growth phase. And then the fourth and final phase is the empire entrepreneur. And at this phase, you have a successful business. It's growing at a pace that you want it to grow, and you're making this additional money that you can then choose what to do with. And so you can either reinvest that money back into your business, or you can find a better use for that money. So I argue that the future of entrepreneurship really is creating a holding company, not some massive holding company like Berkshire Hathaway necessarily, but a holding company where you own and invest in a number of different businesses as a way to build consistent cash flow, but also as a way to add more adaptability and resilience into your business. And so what I mean by this is having just one company and all of your eggs in one basket and reinvesting all of your money back into that business can make sense in some cases, but oftentimes there might be a better use of the money that you're making from your business than just throwing it back into your business. So I talk about how to evaluate those opportunities. Should you buy another company? Should you invest in private companies? How should you structure a holding company? How can you use a holding company to create tax efficiency in your life? And really dive into not too much nitty-gritty, but some of the specifics just to help you understand just how useful and valuable holding companies can be as an entrepreneur. And throughout the book, I talk about how to grow your company to sell, whether or not you want to sell your company, and then how to buy companies in addition to selling your business. And so these are two things that have been transformative in my life. And when I started as an entrepreneur, I had no idea how to build a company to sell. I had no idea how to sell a company, what that process is, how to find buyers, what to look for, what to be on the lookout for. And in the book, I demystify that process of what do you do when someone reaches out and says, hey, I want to buy your company, or I'm interested in buying your company, and what are the things you need to look out for? And then if you say yes and you go through the process with them, what does that process look like to selling your company? What are the things you need to look out for? What is the framework that I think that you should consider? And then also, if you're looking to buy a company, how do you find a company to buy that fits with your existing portfolio, adds economies of scale to your portfolio? What's the difference between vertical and horizontal integration when buying companies? And so there's so much in the book, and I really didn't want it to feel overwhelming. I wanted it to be accessible. I wanted anyone who was interested in entrepreneurship to be able to pick it up and not be overwhelmed. And I also wanted anyone who was already an entrepreneur, maybe a solopreneur, maybe someone with fewer than 50 employees who has a business, to be able to read through it and understand the next phase of entrepreneurship that they could move through, as well as everything that's possible. Because I make the argument that having the expansive view of entrepreneurship will not only make you a successful entrepreneur because you're able to understand all the different paths and all the different things that can happen as an entrepreneur, but if you're already an entrepreneur building a company, you can better build a company on your own terms and end up in a place where you have a business that not only gives you money, but it also gives you extra time, and you're doing something that you love, and you've been able to make the assessment on the trade-offs that you're willing to make. And so I also share stories within the book of people who have created many different types of businesses and how they've used those businesses to build lives that they love. There's some great examples in the book that I'm excited for you to dig into. And then there's going to be others that I'm going to share over time on the podcast and through different types of content, just because there's just incredible people that I've met even recently who've built businesses that they love, that give them the exact amount of money, in some cases more money than they need, and they're still able to spend time with their families and their kids. And I'm thinking about a speech language pathologist that I recently met. Her name's Christine, and she has an incredible business where She used to be stressed out working for a hospital system and then went out on her own, and she trades her time for money as a consultant, but she only works with 10 kids at a time and is able to price her services so it gives her enough money to cover her mortgage and her family's expenses, and she's able to keep her business the size that she wants it to. She's really built a business that has an impact. It helps kids who are struggling with gaining language skills and who really need help. And then she's able to build a business. I believe she works about 20 hours a week, and she's able to spend the additional time with her own kids and just doing other things that she wants. So she's built a business that gives her exactly what she wants. And her husband owns a landscaping company, and there's so much demand for where he lives for landscaping and lawn mowing that now he's capped his number of new clients he's willing to take on, and he has a team of 5 people who work for him, and he's making more money than he needs. And so between the two of them, these two businesses, they could both grow, they could both be more profitable, they both could generate a lot more money, but they've gone through the sometimes difficult work of figuring out what type of business they want to build, how big they want it to be, and then building that business ultimately to support the life and lifestyle that they want. And then they're able to realize how much is enough. And there's just people everywhere who've built businesses like that are bringing a lot of money and meaning and purpose to their lives. And that's really what it's all about. And so in the book, I dive into a number of the businesses that I've built and the trade-offs that I've made and what I've learned at each phase of the journey. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. To learn more about my new book, Inner Entrepreneur, A Proven Path to Profit and Peace, please visit grantsabatier.com/books or search for Inner Entrepreneur on bookshop.org, amazon.com, or by contacting your local independent bookstore. The book will also be available on Audible and Spotify for listening. As always, thank you for your support, and I hope to see you soon.